You just want things to work so bad, and sometimes that's just not supposed to work for you. And there may be something, not even maybe, there's something else that's supposed to work for you. And this is stopping you from finding that. Um, so I think that was one thing I took away too. Like, yeah, this is just not supposed to, everything isn't supposed to just work for you. Because up to that point, like even going back to like the perfection is kind of like the types of shit just worked for me. So it's like, oh no, everything's not supposed to work for you. It will work out in the end,
but not at that moment.
but not at that moment, and that's okay.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a very special guest in the building. Man, he's a very, very, very amazing storyteller. Just completed the tour was sold out, right?
It was packed out, yeah. It was
For the
packed
most
out in
part.
there,
If it
yeah.
wasn't sold out every day, it was
Yeah,
mainly
like,
sold out.
Yeah, for sure.
He recently got a shout out from Jimmy Butler on his song Bobby Portis.
That's nuts, for sure.
I don't know if you use this name anymore, King Dilla.
Yeah, it come up still.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
I'm Femdot. I rap really good. I do other things, but I also rap really good.
Like I said, he's an amazing storyteller. So
Appreciate that.
having this past tour happen, how do
Yeah.
you feel like it helped you elevate as a performer?
One, it opened a new demographic because it's like I was on tour with Redville. He 18. He turned 18 on tour, or he turned 19 on tour.
Damn.
So he dumb young. So like the demographic young, and that was like the younger than what my demographic typically is. So like people mosh pitting and shit. Like, well, I ain't never had no mosh pits. Like my fans wasn't mosh pitting. They gonna wave, they gonna jump. They is not mosh pitting. You feel me? So, and it just like this. It was way more upbeat. Like I ain't had no slow songs in my set. So I'm running back and forth, hopping up and down and shit. Like really, just like it was really a testament to like my breathing control type shit. So. It was cool. It was a different one. My set was like every song I was rapping and moving up and down and hopping and shit. It was different.
You know, your style's really, you got to focus on what you're saying.
Yeah.
I love your music, bro.
No,
I
appreciate
definitely
that.
listened to every single album before we got this shit done. So,
Appreciate you.
how often did you open your set with your favorite song, Crossroads?
That song not even in my set no more. It's not in my set. I'm surprised it lasted that long in my set. Cause God, I think the last tour, I think the tour of Saba, we still did Crossroads, but we stopped doing that shit for real like 2020. Yeah, I make better stories.
You mentioned that you hate performing this song and that there's a disdain for it because it forces you to place yourself back in a time that you don't like being in. What was going on at this time?
Shit, I was really at a crossroads. Life was really like, so the song itself took me 3 years to write. So it's like, one, I gotta put my, like, when I was working on the King Dilla project then, like, that was used, like, as, like, an alter ego or me, like, doing this to get me out of, like, a depression, like, a super slump. So I was leaning into this super, like, arrogant ego type shit. And then Crossroads was at the end of that project because it was me, like, coming back to, like, who I actually am and balancing myself out. Because, like, the King Dilla, like, part of me would have made the other decision, right? So I'm like, that's cool and all, but now I done got past that. You feel me? Like, and I thought it was a great story at the time, but then I got older. I'm like, I make better stories, and like when I perform any song, I immediately go back to who I was when I was writing. It's the only way I could perform at the best of my ability. I gotta get myself in that mode, in that emotion, and that song, although it was exciting for me because I like unlocked a new, like, in my idea, like I unlocked a new like skill in terms of storytelling. But then it was like that was such a heavy time for me that I'm like, I don't be liking to go back there if I don't need to, especially when I feel like I got better work.
How do you feel like, you know, placing yourself in that time was really impacting you mentally, though?
As artists, when we're on stage, like, well, at least when I'm on stage, like, I'm not even worried about the crowd. Like, I interact with the crowd, obviously, and do stuff like that, but I'm really not. Like, when it comes to me rapping these songs, I'm not worried. I'm trying to make sure that I'm conveying that emotion that I had. So even though I've gotten past that and I've healed from wherever I was going through, and I've been able to kind of like get myself good or even like deal with whatever trauma that has been attached. And it's not even just that song, but any song. I still, in order for me to feel like I'm delivering a lot, I still have to put myself in that moment, and that is emotionally taxing. It's like it gets draining for me because it's like I have to put on a good performance because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. But in order to do that, I have to feel those feelings again, even if those aren't feelings that like I feel anymore. I have to force myself in that moment, and that's a lot of like energy like internally that could be hella draining.
I could just imagine having to go back on every single fucking episode and thinking about where I was at that time when I made that one. And if I had to redo it for somebody, I couldn't convey the same emotion that
Exactly.
I originally put into it. Even with my cousin, he used to make music and he would make the rough track, the demo, and then go to the studio and actually lay it down.
Yeah.
But he would have to do it basically within a week of it because he's like, well, shit, I gotta still feel that emotion. And if I wait 3 months, I'm not gonna feel that shit no more.
And sometimes you can make it. And sometimes that's why people just use the rough version of some shit. 'Cause sometimes you can't recreate that feeling, which is why I recommend people to have like a setup at home or some shit so if they feel that they can do it right away. But I think early on, because I only was able to like, when I had to practice before I went to the studio a lot of times, I just taught myself that I need to I need to teach myself how to feel this again versus like, so I can know like to do the take the right way.
NCAA rules then. Man, that's a wild ass story.
It's a wild story, for sure.
Talking about Crossroads and NCAA rules, there's almost concepts that are sort of similar in that vein.
Yeah.
Where did that story come from?
So NCAA rules is a combination of 3 different stories. Cause sometimes I'll do that. I did that with Snuck to Maddie's too, where they were like pretty much my sister knew somebody that she went to college with, and like his career kind of went different. And at the time, growing up, like playing AAU ball, shit like that, I've seen niggas who I'm like, this nigga crazy, these niggas hooping, and something happened or whatever, and they end up in a different path. So when I was talking to my sister about it, I was in the studio, and then like the beat came on, and I immediately had a flashback to that moment, and then it reminded me of my homies. And I'm like, okay, what would that look like in Chicago now? And how can I like really drive home a lot of these points that show a lot of these inequalities and a lot of these niggas trying to go D1 or trying to go to the league. So that's where it came from. It just came from like I was just referencing like stories that I know, and I'm like, all right, well, I haven't heard this on wax before, so let me make it.
That's just wild, especially the ending.
And crazy, bro, because you realize the song it's not even like me as the character. It's about their mama. You know what I'm saying? You get to end the song like, you know what I'm saying, 2 kids and the husband all gone, you know what I'm saying? She take drugs to sleep now, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's about the mom. The mom is the one that has to deal with all of whatever is left. Whoever's a lot of times, like, whoever's left after that, you have survivor's guilt or whatever, and these people have to deal with whatever the repercussions is of the life you be living.
And everything happens for a reason. It's a concept that you've carried throughout each of your albums, from Della Creme 2 to 94 Camry Music to Not For Sale to even the new joint, Free Samples Volume 1. And even in the song Ween or Pray Part 2, you say, dudes talking like they understand me. Your daddy ever have to drive taxis to afford Nissans and Camrys?
Yeah.
Ever had someone who had murder all in his family help a friend off Xannies get home because he had trouble standing? And he take them pills because it numbs his damage. There's a deeper reason for why people do the things they do. There's a deeper reason to why somebody takes those pills. There's a deeper reason to why somebody drowns their problems in alcohol. There's a deeper reason to why this person tries to find comfort in somebody else's presence. Everybody has things that happens to them, and we all try to find a way to just numb that pain. And for you, you provide an even longer list. What's the circumstance that you've had the biggest trouble with?
I think as of recent, over the last few years, has been survivor's guilt of just like being like, damn, there, there are people in like there are circumstances in which like I know people look up to me or I'm supposed to be this person, and my little homie in the streets now because I didn't blow up on time. You know what I mean? And now like I gotta deal with I can't stop you from doing what you're doing because I can't put bread in your pocket to stop you, or I can't stop you from living your life. Or then motherfuckers get murdered or motherfuckers is dying, and it's like, damn, like that could have been me or that whatever. So I think that's the heaviest thing to deal with now. I think before then, a lot of it was just like I put a lot of pressure on myself growing up to like be this like perfect type of person to just move, and I just could never get caught. I could never like I had to just always be on top of everything, and that would just over time just like beat at me. It beat me down because it also forced me to compartmentalize all my feelings, so that way I was always productive. Because I would look at like me having emotions or like utilizing my emotions as like a thing that would take away from our productivity. So I would be productive, I would be doing shit, but then I would have no idea how to deal with none of these feelings because I was so focused on just trying to be like as like productive as possible, as perfect as possible. So I've been working through that. But then by working through that, also like life be happening, and then I gotta deal with the survivor's guilt of like losing so many people, whether like in the physical or just like watching how people become different people or people fall into shit that I can't do. Um, but yeah, so those are probably the two biggest things that has like that I still kind of deal with.
Why did you feel like this pressure of I need to blow up fell on you, right? Even though the situations, you don't control that.
For so long, I always was the one that just got shit done. Like it just worked out that way. So it's like I should be able to if I'm supposed to help people, I'm supposed to be the put people in situations or some shit like I figured everything else out up to this point, so why can't I figure this out? Or why can't I? And I just like to help people. I genuinely just enjoy. It's the thing I enjoy doing.
The La Creme scholars.
You feel me? Like because it don't hurt me to do. Well, theoretically, it don't hurt me to do, right? But that's literally what we talking about. But it's like, yeah. So I think I put a lot of pressure on myself because I know I'm capable of like really changing shit. And I've seen what I've been able to do when I just like dedicate my time and passion to something. But I also see that like I'm human, so I also have to consider the fact that like I have to like take in order for me to help people or take care of people or whatever, or and not I need to make sure I'm okay personally without feeling guilty about it. Um, so that's some shit that I just been trying to figure out.
Looking back, what do you feel like is the moment that started that all?
That shit started dumb young, so I'm thinking like probably I don't even know if it's like a specific moment. It may even just be like, I don't know. It kind of the moment had to be so early that it just felt like ingrained. So just growing up, like in my household, like we just was expected to do well, and I just did well. So it just became the normal, um, and then just being able to like, I guess by like 10, like 9, 10 years old, I started figuring out like, oh, I can do certain things and get away with certain shit that people can't do. And I also am like, I know certain like languages, not like, speaking Spanish or something like that, but I mean, I understand just how to navigate certain shit that people can't do. So I should probably be the one. So I took it on myself to probably be the one to like start, trying to be a dot connector for people or, make shit shake.
Do you feel like there was a moment that you realized it?
It was happening so early. I don't even know if it's like a specific moment that I could be like, yeah, this the moment where I'm like, yeah, I gotta be the one.
It's almost ingrained in you.
Also, like, I'm the youngest of four, and like, it might have just been on that, cause I was supposed to be the one when I was born, like, according, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hey, it be like that.
you feel me? So I'm supposed to be the one off rip. Like I came out and I was good at shit. Like they like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You the like my sister, the golden child, right? She like the
Olympic
unicorn.
gold medalist?
Yeah. She is my favorite human. We all competing for second place. You feel me? Like it's fine. So the next up, cause I got a brother in between us, and the next up, like who had like a lot of those. I had qualities of all my siblings. So they like, yeah, you the apex. You supposed to be the one. You feel me? Like, so I always just kind of felt like that.
I say that about my sister. My sister's the youngest. She's the smartest. Like, she's got all the tools. She's really determined. So she should be the one. She should be the one that takes it. So I was the one until she grew
Right,
up and, started being smarter than me, all this shit. But anyways, right? You see it in the younger people and it almost takes a toll on you because you have these expectations of what you should be, who you should be. And I guess I kind of do see that in my sister, right? Because I see that there's certain things that will deter her, or because she needs to live up to this expectation. And this is just me talking. I don't know if this is actually how she feels, but because there's this expectation that she needs to be the one to do better than everybody else, she carries herself with that energy, but she sometimes lets things bring her down back to a more humble level.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's still a problem for you?
You don't unlearn something and it just go away. Like, unlearning is a lifetime thing. You know, only thing that happens, in order to unlearn something, you just recognize you're doing it earlier and earlier. Until then it becomes preventative and you're about recognizing that you're about to do it. And then you catch that earlier and earlier. But I think it's a lifelong thing. So I don't see myself ever not thinking like like I don't got this pressure on me. I don't. I would love to, and in theory I can, but in practice, I don't see myself ever not thinking I got this pressure on me. I just see myself catching myself earlier and earlier, before like I fall into like an abyss about it and shit.
And there's a lot of things about yourself that you've had to unlearn. Even in the song Sacrilegious, you say, "Pray that I fix my flaws, but instead I put them on instrumentals. I should be praying for clarity to help me solve my problems, but instead I'm praying for same reasons I got them." What flaws were you hoping to fix?
A lot of what I was talking about in Not For Sale, just I like I know like I can self isolate, like because I usually work well by myself, so I'm not gonna self isolate. I know I can kind of like become distant. I know like I try to work on my ego as much as possible. But there's always ego there. No matter how humble you are or whatever, there's always gonna be a stint of ego there and it may show up in different areas. So it's just like it's so many things about me that I'm like, damn, like this is not who I wanna be going forward, or this is who I was and I know this is who I was. Like, oh, I shouldn't have moved like that, or I should or that didn't feel good, like, after in the fact. I'm doing something that didn't feel good to me, and I'm doing it because I feel like it's cool or it's the right thing, or, like, someone told me it was the right thing to do, instead of, like, being more of myself, like, and listening to the voice in my head. So, but then at the same time, right, like, instead of me being like, "Yeah, like, I'm finna fix some. God, please give me the strength to fix my shit." I'm praying for certain shit, like certain material shit, right? That only leads to me then like having to lead to me to be in a world in which the things that I don't want or that I don't want to become me is prevalent, right? It's like I think it's so crazy the fact that like I be with a person and they praying for me to like I would pray to enrich your pocket, or I pray that you're famous or whatever. And like in theory, it's like you're just praying for like me to have security and be happiness, but in practice, it's like you're praying for me to be like rich. People are in your pockets when you're rich. People you can lose sense of reality when you get to a certain amount of money, or when you're like at a certain notoriety. So it's like, am I praying to be secure and to do my craft and to take care of people, or am I praying to be this larger than life figure? Because if I'm a larger than life figure, then like what comes with all that? You know what I mean? Like, who am I gonna actually be? Like, am I still gonna be able to be myself? So, like, instead of praying for clarity to kind of really be specific on what I want in terms of like my career, or, like in terms of like who I wanna present as, like, as a person, and like, if I wanna be a father, what type of father do I wanna be? If I, as a brother, what type of brother do I wanna make sure I'm really there for everybody? Or am I praying to be so busy that I don't have time for nobody no more? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's like, am I praying for clarity, to solve my problems? Or am I instead praying for some of the things that lead to the reasons I have my problems in the first place?
Man, it's a dilemma
Man,
because you really don't know what direction you want to take.
called a catch-22. It's like either way you lose. It's like when it's a catch-22, it's like both options aren't good. But it's like, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm the biggest artist in the world, that comes with a whole different set of problems. If I'm not the biggest artist in the world, I feel like I'm not doing what I need to be doing.
Have you seen some of those problems present themselves to you already?
Spending time alone, you start getting in your head, like, you have a timeline of where you feel you should be by a certain age or by a certain point, and when you're not there, you beat yourself up about it. So I think I found myself like sitting and really beating myself up. Like, damn, I'm not where I thought I would be. And I would have to like sit and listen to old music, or I would look at where I was exactly a year or 5 years ago and like see the growth to like bring me out of that. But I would find myself definitely beating myself up. Like, I'm supposed to be this nigga. Like, you too. Like, why aren't you this? You know what I'm saying? What? Because it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, somebody else. Like, no, what did you not do to get you to that level? You know what I mean? Instead of being like, nah, my time is just different than everybody else's.
So what do you feel like you're missing right now?
I think right now I'm in a good space where I'm just like, I just gotta keep going. It's just waiting for time to align, and just I gotta just really remain as disciplined as possible. I think the separation between good and great is just discipline.
Getting older is scary, bro.
It's terrifying.
I hit 23 and I got scared. I'm like, am I really on the right path?
Right.
Is what I'm doing making an impact, and how far can I really take it?
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what 24, 25, 26 is going to feel like.
Yeah.
But you just got to keep going. You got to be consistent with it, because like you said, if you stop right now, there's somebody right behind you that's going to take that shit. I just saw that post from Cole Bennett, right? The minute you stop, somebody else is right behind you, and they're willing to take your place. They're willing to do everything that you weren't, and they're willing to sacrifice what you weren't. And that's when it comes into that relationship play, right? There's certain things that you're not willing to sacrifice in a relationship, and that's when you got to make a decision. Am I going to stay or am I going to go?
Because the reality is just like, do you want it or not? Like, it really comes down sometimes to that simple. Like, do you want it or not? And if you say yes, you got to stand on that. Like, do you want it or not? Do you want it? Do you actually want it, right? And are you okay with it not coming when you said it was going to? Like, are you okay with it coming eventually? But like, do you want it now or do you want it? You know what I mean? Like, because if you want it now, you're gonna be if it don't happen now, you fucked. Now you blew. But or do you just want it? Because it can come 10 years from now. Are you okay with that?
And that's something you had to deal with when you went to Penn State. You saw everybody start to blow up, and you felt like you missed your chance.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, when I came back, at first I was like, I'm never gonna miss my opportunity again. Like, y'all got me, I'm finna grind, I'm doing whatever. But I think now I was like, I wasn't supposed to have it then. Me at 19, like, even what I have now, if I would have had what I had now at 20, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do with it. And I wouldn't have had no reference points. If I blew up with Chance, who am I gonna look at as a reference point? If I blew up when Saba blew up, who am I gonna have as a reference point? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I know shit is like going on tour with Saab last year and seeing him pack out the Argonne and sell out the Fillmore in DC and doing all this crazy shit, when I remember seeing him doing open mics. Had we was on the same trajectory, who would I been able to been like, damn, I have an idea of where I want to go with this. I wouldn't have had nobody. So me coming home and being so like, man, I missed my opportunity, blah, blah, blah. It helped me with a drive for sure. It gave me some drive, but now that I reflect on it years later, I'm like, it just wasn't my time. So that's where it comes back to that point of like, do you want it or do you want it now? You know what I mean? Because like, if you want it, just move like you want it. It's gonna come. It's gonna come your way. Like, if I'd have blew up then, scholars would have never happened. I would have never been giving out scholarships to people. I would have never been doing a lot of the shit I've been doing. You feel me? So it's like I'm doing it in my own way because I want it, but I just need it to happen when it happened, not immediately. But when I came home, I'm like, I need to get to it now, which was good. It was drive, it was energy, but it just started shifting. You know what I'm saying? It started picking up, but it needs to be I'm gonna work like I need it now, but I'm okay if it doesn't happen right away.
And even when you get it, keep on working.
Once you get it, it's like, all right, like, you got it. How long do you want it? You know what I mean? Because you're not gonna have it forever. 'Cause that's the thing. Once you get what you're looking for, it's temporary. Nobody's on top forever. It's impossible. So it's like, once you get it, it's temporary. So now you're working to see how long you can keep it, and then how long, once you lose it, and once it's not the same it was anymore, is it still have you done everything you needed to do in that space? So that way you're okay with yourself when you're no longer Drake.
Was it enough for you? Do you, like you said, do you feel like you accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish?
Are you leaving there with no regrets? Are you content with like, yo, I I carved a lane out for myself. I remain myself. I can leave whatever, cause especially like in the rap space, I'm saying you don't gotta be. Everyone's not gonna be Kendrick. Everyone's not gonna be Jay-Z. Everyone's not gonna be Cole. Somebody's gonna be Dom Kennedy. Somebody's gonna be Currency, and that's perfectly fine. And they live their lives perfectly fine.
So what's that look like to you?
My ceiling is like in a realm of a Kendrick, right? Like I feel like that. I feel like I have more than the ability to do that, right? And I feel like I have all the intangibles to do that as well. I also understand like I could be. I have no problem being a Currency. It's perfectly fine. I could tour the rest of my life. I have a loyal fan base. I can walk in fucking Target and buy buy a fucking blender and leave, and no one's gonna bother me. You feel me? So I feel like what works for me is somewhere in that middle, because I also want to teach. I want to do a bunch of different things that I don't see people doing in the way that I do things. So it's like for me, it's like I just need to know that at the end of all of this, you can't just say I'm just a rapper, right? You can't. I think that's a discredit to all of the other things that I'm good at. It's just everything comes from me through the medium of rap. You know what I mean? So it's like, am I using the gifts and the tools that God has been giving me to create my purpose, and really, which is really just to help people? And am I using all of the tools the right way? So if I feel like I did that, then I'm straight.
Going back to your flaws,
Yeah.
how did you see this impacting those around you?
It always show up in my close relationships first. Like I remember, like I used to like me and my mama would get into it because I didn't communicate that well, or I wouldn't check in as much. Cause I'd be in my own little world. I wouldn't check in, or I'd be so locked in. I'm always so busy. I wouldn't check in as much. Or even like romantic relationships, I'm not the most communicative. Or because I've been so focused on, I've been pretty much career driven my whole life. I wasn't as emotionally intelligent, or I was only able to express my emotions through writing or through music and not like vocalizing that, right? And then that shows up in relationships, especially romantic relationships and like interpersonal relationships. So the flaws will show up.
Why do you feel like it was such a process for you to change the things that you already knew were necessary?
It's a process to learn things. So the same way it's a process to learn something, it's a process to unlearn. I'm still unlearning all this shit. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do this shit. Like, you can't, if I've been doing something for 15 years, it's not gonna take me a year to unlearn to do that shit. You know what I mean? Or like to not do that shit no more. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. Like, that's why shit is like, just like riding a bike. Like when you just happen to get on a bike after not riding for 5 years and you miraculously can ride that motherfucker again. Same shit. The brain is a muscle too. Muscle memory ain't no different up there. So it's a lot trickier to unlearn shit that is toxic behaviors, especially when they've seemed normal for you for most of your life, whether based off examples you've seen in family or in media or whatever the fuck. So it just becomes way more difficult to unlearn. So you have to like really dedicate yourself to try to be the person that you say you are.
What do you feel like was the biggest toxic trait you had to change?
My biggest toxic trait, I'm still trying to change, and that's communication. That's just being better with open lines of communication, specifically with how I feel, and just making sure people understand that I care about them as much as I say I do.
All you rappers got the same issue.
It's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah, it's like, because for me, growing up, it was writing. Writing was always just the easiest way I can express myself. And also growing up like in a like first generation household, like it ain't about like you growing up with parents who are focused on survival, so feelings aren't prioritized. Niggas not worried about how you feel. Nigga, like it's food on the table, nigga. And if it's you know what I'm saying, I'm not worried about so I'm not looking at feelings as a priority growing up. And the best way I can get them out is writing. But you know what I'm saying, I can't write a letter to everybody. You feel me? So then I'm making songs or whatever. But once I write, now I know the feelings are, now they're good. Now I'm back to regular instead of being able to vocalize that with somebody. So it's like, okay, how am I vocalizing that the right way so somebody knows that like I feel things? Because with me, it's like, it's not necessarily like I'm cold or like I just come off fine all the time. It's always fine. I'm cool. Everything is cool. Everything is fine. And I'm I'm just as a person, I'm pretty much even tone all the time. Like I'm not the most like unless I'm rapping, it ain't hella inflections, it ain't hella whatever. Like my tone don't change. I'm pretty much this. So unless I tell you how I feel, You know what I'm saying? It's very easy for me to come off like, real ambiguous or real whatever. And I know a lot of times it was subconscious for me, so now I'm just being more aware of that.
How do you feel like it impacted you mentally not being able to express yourself?
I didn't realize how bad my anxiety was until I got older because I'm like, I'm trying to plan for everything. So because like I'm not expressing how I feel or because I'm like not really able to process how I feel in the right way, I'm trying to think of how you feel and then think of a response and then think of a response to your response. So now I'm planning the entire circumstance, entire conversation, how everything gonna go, instead of just saying how I feel and seeing what happened. You know what I mean? So now, and then now I'm getting stressed out about the conversation because now in my head, this is a big conversation or this is such a big moment or whatever. And then now I don't respond to you or I don't say anything and you look up and time has passed and it's only gotten worse. You know what I mean? So, and then when that happens, I only feel worse about myself because I'm feeling like, damn, now I'm not being a good person to somebody. I feel worse about myself. And then now I'm talking to myself bad, but I'm still got to get to this issue or whatever that's happening. And then now that doesn't include other life. Let's say something else in life happens that fucks you up, and now you're dealing with XYZ and whatever you was working up to be so big when you could have avoided all that in the first place.
You were a mastermind at this shit. Hey, he was a mastermind gaslighter because he knew what you were gonna say.
No, that's the thing though. It's like, but then it will go out the window when I'm having a conversation.
Mm.
It'll be like, okay, they finna say this, they finna feel this. But and that's the craziest part. Like every time I would think like, this is it never was a response. Or even if it was the response back, I don't respond how I said in my head I was gonna respond. So I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna end it like this. I'm gonna plan this out. Woo, woo, woo. Like, you gonna say this? Okay, cool. I'm gonna say this. And not in a way to make you feel like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about or you wrong, but in a way to be like, to console your feelings or some shit or be like, all right, I'm gonna say this and, I'm gonna smooth this over. Or I'm like, okay, I need you to take accountability for this, but I'm gonna let you say this first. Instead of just being like, oh, this is how I feel. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, well, that gives me context.
I think it also comes from knowing the person that you're having this conversation with, right? So we'll go based off relationships. If you know a certain person wants a certain response from you, you're willing to give in and just give them that response because it's gonna make them happy and it's gonna make them feel comforted. And that's when you pocket your feelings and are like, all right, fuck it. What I feel doesn't matter because they're not gonna respond to it the way that this would end positively.
Mhm.
So it's at that point, it's like, what the fuck do I really do?
And in that sense, what I would do is just write down how I feel, and then I'm like, oh, my feelings are out. We good.
But then you deal with that shit every day, and then it fucks you up even more because you keep going in a cycle
Absolutely.
until you figure out, well, this isn't healthy for me anymore.
Yep.
And you got to make that tough decision again. Do I leave or do I stay? Because I care about this person, but I also know that I'm breaking down inside. And that's why I love a lot of your music. You touch on those concepts a lot when it comes to relationships. But before we get into that, man, I want you to break down 94 Camry music for us. I want you to give the audience the concept of the album real quick.
So much of my life revolves around the idea of freedom and what that is. And because of that, I will always think about the moments that I initially felt the most free or that I can attach that to something. And that shit just kept ending up going back to moments in that car. Like, so I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? Summertime, late summer, et cetera. Like I started thinking of things and a lot of things happened in that car. So many moments of me growing up and figuring out like kind of who I wanted to be. I had the car from when I was 16 to 21, 22. So like those are very pivotal, like, you feel me? Like developmental moments that shape you into adulthood. So I just kept seeing shit like going back to that car. So when I was working on the project, I'm like, oh, okay, like, because I had the idea for a very long time, but I knew I didn't have like the resources or the writing ability to actually like express like a damn near coming to age story. And when it finally clicked and I was able to start doing it, yeah, 94 Carry Music just felt like these are the moments. These are the moments that like I reference. I talk about a lot of things that have started for me. Started in this car, so this is my ode to that. I lost a car, So I'm like, let me keep it alive through this because it did so much for me. It was my best. That car was your first car, your best friend. You get in and out of everything with that shit. You know what I mean? So for me, it was just like, all right, I'm immortalizing this car, but I'm also very much like showing where a lot of these thoughts formed from. And they may change over time, they may whatever, but where did they kind of start from? Because after I finished Delacrim 2, I'm like, all right, this is like, these are really introspective ideas of kind of like the root of who I am. So then where did those experiences come from? And a lot of it started in the car.
That first car is the place you spend the most amount of time aside from the crib, right?
So much time. And when you want to get out you just, you ain't gonna know where to go. You know what I'm saying? And like the first time you ever able to ride in your car, go down Lakeshore, get on Bishop Ford, whatever, just go to the stove. Just go somewhere. Like you feel free, you feel like you can do anything.
What was the most important part about Fem that developed in that car?
There are two things. One, uh, I I ended up developing a life worth rapping about. Like I've always had a life worth rapping about, but like since I was a shorty, but in that car was like, all right, like if I never do no shit again, I have shit from 16 to 22 that I can rap about for the rest of my life because I was able to move around the way I was because I had that car. And I think that was crazy. And then outside of that, just that like I could really get, like if I need to get somewhere, if I need to do something, I really started forming the idea of me like distance not really mattering in terms of like me trying to accomplish something because I'll be driving so far to just do some shit or just go to an open mic or do whatever. So distance no longer was an idea to me when it came to goals and dreams. When before it's like I can only do this in my area, or I can get a ride or catch the train. But you get a car, as long as I could put, especially back then, I put 5 in my tank. I'm gonna get where I need to go. You know what I mean? And because of that, that got me in and out of so many situations.
And that makes me understand you more. It makes me understand why to you driving from the South Burbs to Uptown was like so wild. Because when I was watching the interview, I was like, okay, cool, like you drove from place to place, but now understanding like it's deeper than that. Once again, everything's deeper than the surface.
It's not just driving from 187th or 183rd to fucking Lawrence. You know what I'm saying? Or like right, or driving up to Rogers Park and like fucking Evanston. It's not even just the fact of driving that long distance. It's the fact that I'm driving there because I want to do something and I have to be back in 47 minutes. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm willing to risk it all for what I want to do. And the first time I was able to do that at a high level, I always was like trying shit and doing like, I was always, I'm a risk taker. I think it through, but I risk shit. But having a car made me want to risk a lot more shit for what I wanted to do. Like I was never going somewhere for no reason. You know what I mean? Like if I'm in the whip and we driving, even if I'm just driving for the sake of driving, I just want to be on Lakeshore right now and I want to hear this song at this time when this is playing. So I'm finna drive. Or some girls up north, I need to meet them, but I also need to be back on time. So always, it just made me wanting to execute my plans a real thing.
So what was the part of Fem that ended in that car?
I didn't really stress much in that whip. I didn't really like I get a flat on the way to a final and be like, well, I'm just gonna fix this shit, go to the fuck. I didn't really stress much. Cause the car was damn near in destroy. Been through so much shit that it's like, yeah, we gonna make it through, you know. And I think the peak of me not worrying was in that car. Now,
That shit ends.
the plus is that as I grow as a person, I realized that was just faith in God for me, and in my relationship with God has become my own. So it replaced the idea of me like putting faith in just like damn near just this car. Right, I literally just put faith in my like. If I'm in the Camry, I'ma get there and get. My engine light is on, and I got 25 more miles to go. I'm not worried. I'm finna get there. My gas tank on E, and I don't have no brake. I'm finna. It don't matter. I'm in the It's killer. I'm finna get there. Versus now, it's like I know that's God. Like, so I'm not really putting. Not that I wasn't religious then, but I think, when you get older, you learn religion for yourself and not for your parents. So I kind of realized, like, no, that's God, bro. That's just not me being young and invincible. That's because I'm supposed to be doing some shit. So I think it took away a lot of the the not worrying because I'm young and because like I'm doing this because I'm just young, and more of like I'm not worrying because I got faith in something bigger than me. That I'm doing something bigger than.
But even if you flip that to just being naive, just being a naive kid that's growing up and realizing these situations and circumstances for themselves, finally understanding yourself and what you feel, what you believe in, all those experiences that you said from 16 to 22, those are different eras that you're going through in your life. I think about, man, your album cover. I had a green card just like it. It was a 96 Honda.
On the guys,
So I think about every single job I had when I had that whip. I think about every single girl I talked to when I had that whip. I think about all the arguments I had in
in
that
that
whip.
whip, bro, you not wrong.
So knowing that it's I'm not young anymore. This was me when I was young and now I've evolved, now I've grown. But when you take a step back and you go back to that time, I picked the song Happy Breakup Song. I love that fucking song because it reminded me of all the arguments I had in my whip.
Yeah.
That was the spot I went to whenever I didn't have a spot.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I had the most important conversations.
Yep.
And you say, there's still times I want to hit your line and check how you doing, but I know that's not the right way to do it. This ain't no if you hear this, can I get you back song. This is a thank you for loving me, even when you were loving too long. This a thank you for helping me find myself song. When closing this chapter, what did you find out about yourself?
The crazy thing is I'm writing 94 Carrying music after I lost the car already. So I'm reflecting on what was in those moments, and I'm like, okay, to your point, yeah, I've grown. I've been able to kind of process how I feel about certain things or whatever, and I understood that sometimes things just aren't meant to. Like sometimes things just don't work out, and sometimes it's not always your fault or the other person's fault. Sometimes it's just not supposed to be a thing. Um, and I think that took a minute because you want things to work so bad, and you can apply it outside of relationships. You just want things to work so bad, and sometimes that's just not supposed to work for you. And there may be something, not even maybe, there's something else that's supposed to work for you, and this is stopping you from finding that. Um, so I think that was one thing I took away too. Like, yeah, this is just not supposed to. Everything isn't supposed to just work for you. Because up to that point, like even going back to like the perfectionist kind of like the types of shit just worked for me. So it's like, oh no, everything's not supposed to work for you. It will work out in the end,
But not at that moment.
but not at that moment, and that's okay.
But specifically from that line, thank you for helping me find myself.
Thank you for, because had I not been in this situation, or had I not met you or interacted with you, I wouldn't even have known this side of me before. To be like, oh, this is a part, whether I like it or not, right? Let's say there's a part of me I don't like about myself. I would have never even known that was there had you not brought that out of me. Or if there's a part of me that I do very much enjoy about myself, I wouldn't have found that either. So it's like, thank you for helping me. I hope I've been able to grow through this and become a better person the same way you are. I hope, because relationships are mirrors. You know what I mean? Like whoever you're in a relationship with, that's a reflect. Like you're there. What attracts you is something in you, in them. You know what I mean? So it's like a relationship's a mirror. So thank you for helping me see myself, because I wasn't seeing myself fully before.
WFFL.
Mm-hmm.
This is a chapter that's closing for you, man, with this next project.
Yeah, man. Finally. This has been a chapter for years, so I'm excited.
All of these projects are connected.
Yeah.
From Della Creme 2.
Yeah.
It's those moments that you lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being lost and finding yourself.
Yep.
Then you got 94 Camry Music, where all these experiences took place.
Where I found myself at.
Not for sale, not putting a price on all of these experiences that you've had.
Yep.
And even with Free Sample Volume 1, I don't know if you included it in there, but it gives new listeners a taste of who Femdot is.
Yeah.
You could listen to that project and really understand, like, okay, he's a storyteller, but he can also do this rap shit that's not storytelling.
Right.
So you'll be closing this chapter that's been taking place for so long. Talk about that a little bit real quick, man.
I plan all my projects so far out in advance because I feel like they become like checkpoints and points of like the man I want to be, you know? So I know when I'm able to get to this point to make this project, I'm going in the step of the direction of the person I want to be, you know? So like closing this chapter is like, all right, I know at this point now I'm making, 19-year-old femme proud. As a man, fuck an artist, fuck whatever shit. Like, I know in order for me to be able to start referencing the things that I wanted to hear myself talk about in this project when I was planning this out 7, 8 years, 9, 10 years ago, you feel me? To get to that point, no matter how long it took me, I'm on the path of becoming the femme I've always wanted to be. Because I had no idea how the fuck I was going to get to the point to have these conversations. I had no idea how I was going to do Not For Sale in 2014. You know what I mean? But that's when the idea started. You feel me? I had no idea I was gonna go through the life experiences that would give me the context to make some of them songs. So it's like closing this chapter is like, all right, cool. And even now, like working on these different records and shit and trying different things and seeing different things, I'm like, damn, I'm really stepping in and further becoming the person that I always have wanted to be. And that's just super raw to me. Closing this chapter, I'm already mapping out the next like four after this.
On his weekend shift.
No, like you feel me? Like I already got all my shit planned. Is this a thing? But then I don't look at him now. I look at him as album still for sure, but I look at him in that space. Like, yo, like 17-year-old femme, 18, you know what I'm saying? Younger me who is thinking ahead of like, man, you supposed to be this type of artist. And not no one else's pressure, but just of what I really enjoy and the conversations I really wish I was hearing, I'm making somehow without knowing how the fuck I was gonna make it in the first place. And I'm like, that's fire. So to finally be able to close a sequence and people can start seeing Easter eggs, some shit from 2016 and be like, damn, he's been trying to build this out this whole time, this larger conversation. That's going to be really raw for me.
You've said previously that the root of you hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So my final question for you is, who is Femme?
Man, I'm the one who helped, man. I'm just here to help. I'm here to make sure the world is better when I leave than when it got here. And I just here to help, man, whatever that look like. That's the simplest way I can tie it up.
You feel like that's your only purpose in life, to help people?
I want to just be multidimensional, like as a person. But it all leads for me back to helping people. That's just kind of what it leads back to. But I think I've always had the ability to kind of be a bridge for a lot of different things, whether that's like culture, whether that's experience, whether that's education or whatever, et cetera. I feel like I've always been able to be a bridge, and I think, and a translator, and I think that's like, that comes with being relatable and stuff like that. But I truly think that everything I do always leads back to trying to help people.
Not fashion though, right?
No, not fashion. Even when
the cheetah print beanie.
Even the cheetah print beanie is crazy. But even with fashion, man, I've been dressing very much like myself for a very long time, and people have been able to do the same. So
did you actually buy the cheetah print beanie?
No, I think I ended up buying a beanie. I wanted it though. I was like, this would be hard. This is hard. I damn near do it. Ain't nobody else got to take the piss. Who gonna check me? I would have checked me later on in life, but who gonna check me in a moment?
So real quick, this is just the bullshit that I'm gonna throw out, right?
Yeah.
Has Bobby Portis shouted you out?
No, Bobby Portis has not shouted me out. I feel like somebody said they're gonna send it to him. He ain't shout me out.
How's Jimmy Butler shouting you out, but not Bobby Portis?
Crazy, man. Crazy. I mean, I was, Jimmy Butler got some people who fuck with me, apparently.
You need to make a song, Jimmy G Buckets.
Jimmy G, and the G's for Gets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
All right, guys, that's gonna be all today. Make sure you go ahead, check out Femdot, all his projects, bro. I fuck with it all. Della Creme 2, Not For Sale, 94 Camry Music. His most recent release, Free Samples Volume 1.
Volume 2 on the way. We dropping a lot of music this year. This shit really cool. It's always cool to like have honest and open conversations. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you for sliding, bro. It's
No,
definitely a
so-
dope conversation. Make sure you go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Sad Boys For Real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
Broken pieces, who's to blame?